Hi guys, it's Harvey from the UOB student team. I'm back again, and this time I'm just going to be talking to you about some of the highlights of my first semester on my year abroad. First of all, Happy New Year. I hope you all had a fantastic Christmas and you're settling in to the spring term. If you want some tips on how to cope with the spring term, then you should check out my latest blog post, which talks about all the things that you can do to try and get yourself back into a routine after Christmas. I know it can be really hard sometimes, so do check that out. So one of the first big things that you'll probably notice when you study abroad, one of the first things that stood out to me as being a benefit was meeting so many new people. As I've spoken about in my blog posts before, I did a language course before the semester started, which meant that I was with international students from all around the world. All of us were trying to improve our German a little bit. And so I got to meet from the very first day that I arrived some people with similar interests, people from different countries, people from countries I'd never visited myself. And it was just a really, really good way of broadening your horizons, learning about all of these different cultures, learning about different ways of life, different university systems, people's different experiences. And of course, none of us would never have really met without the year abroad, which I think is a great benefit. I've also been able to meet some people from the UK that I'd never have met had I not done a year abroad, including somebody who also studies in Birmingham, but I didn't know was coming. So meeting people was fantastic. It really helped you build a network of other people all in the same boat. You could all help each other with problems. We used to meet up most days after our language course had finished and just sort of chill out and go for some drinks and get to know each other. And then of course when the semester starts you have classes. Most of my fellow students in classes are German students, so that's a great way of meeting people who are native speakers, helping you improve your language every single day. And it's just such a fantastic experience to meet people from such diverse backgrounds. Yes, you do that when you go to university at home, but this feels different. It feels sort of not bigger, but it does feel sort of, I don't know where I'm going with that. It obviously feels different because you're more likely to meet other international students, I think, doing a study abroad, so it does feel slightly different, meeting people from all around the world, and you're less likely to find people from your own country, so it does sort of force you to sort of push yourself outside your comfort zone and try and find people with similar interests, but through your second language, which is quite challenging, but a very, very interesting challenge nonetheless. As well as meeting new people, you'll be discovering the place where you're studying for your semester or year abroad. So for me, it was really interesting to spend the weekend before my course started and the week after the course ended, before lectures started, just sort of going around town, wandering around the old part of town with the different architectural styles, which you can see in my first vlog from the year, and just sort of getting used to living in a new place. For me, it was more about sort of the practical things. So where can I go to do shopping? How can I get into town quickly? How far away is it from the house to the university? Because obviously you've never been here before, so it did feel a bit like being a fresher again. But it's a fantastic feeling, I think, coming to a new place and being able to just explore and have a wander around and feel like you're learning something new because you're always talking in your second language and you're always improving your second language because of that. So for me, discovering the new location was just as impressive, just as important, and just as great a part of my first term here because it is a beautiful place to live. It's so interesting with the different cultural events they have going on, how they use the old town for markets and things, how students get involved, how politically engaged they are. I'll be doing an Instagram post of some of my favourite graffiti. There is so much really cool political graffiti around, so things that are punny type things, or that was repeating myself, but you know what I mean. I'll have to find some ones that I can post, but it's really interesting. It's such a great place, so diverse, so much to do, and it's a fantastic part. The first few months where you're just finding your feet and settling in, but also exploring this new place is wonderful. It is the best part, one of the best parts, obviously, of studying abroad. big thing that I really enjoyed about the first few months that I've spent here is being able to travel so much. Particularly in Europe and other parts of the world, travelling has been another one of the highlights, absolutely, so far. What I would absolutely encourage you to do if you're going on study abroad this year is to look at what options you have for weekends away, what options you have for the vacation periods, for example, and really do take advantage of any opportunities that you do have to explore the new country that you're living in. So, for example, we have the Flixbus service, which is similar to Megabus, and it runs services, I think, in the US, but across continental Europe as well. And they are long-distance bus services that run throughout the day and throughout the night that have some very, very cheap fares. So in my last vlog, I showed you my trip to Strasbourg. Me and my friend Laura, we took the Flixbus from Stuttgart Airport to Strasbourg. We booked a couple of days in advance, so it was quite late. So it was around €40, and that was about 2 or 3 days before. But looking into the future, you can find things for cheap as €10 for a return trip for a 4-hour bus journey. It's fantastic. Also check out things like the equivalent of rail cards. So Deutsche Bahn in Germany have a Bahn card. You can opt for a 25% discount, a 50% discount, or a 100% discount, and you subscribe on an annual basis for that. So I've got a 25% discount on all rail journeys in Germany and on a number of international connections. So for the Christmas holidays, for example, I chose to take the train home instead of flying, which you might think sounds a bit mad, but it was quite an interesting experience. It was a really nice experience. I was able to use my laptop more freely. I had the internet, so I could do a bit of work, but also relax. It allowed me to see some beautiful bits of the French and German countryside, and I also got to travel on the Eurostar, which is always cool. I always find that really fun when I'm doing something like that. But have a look what options are available, because you will be able to use this time to explore parts of the world which you may never ever come to again. But also it could be your first time looking at a new place. So for me, it was my first time going to Strasbourg. I've been to Switzerland for the first time. I'm planning on going to Prague, places like Vienna, maybe even somewhere further afield like Russia. That's also what we've been talking about lately. So use the opportunity you have. You will have free time. Take it and explore the world around you. It's a fantastic opportunity to do on your period abroad. Study abroad obviously also means studying, and I've generally found the experience to be quite interesting. It is very challenging, but I would say it's definitely been one of the highlights. So I wrote a blog post a few months ago on the main differences between studying in the UK and here in Germany. If you haven't read it, it's mainly about things like class sizes, which are probably twice the size in Germany as they are in the UK. Things like independence, you do get a lot of flexibility in terms of deciding what classes you want to take. If there are multiple groups, you can pick which group you go to. You have to register for everything yourself. Everything has to be done. Sometimes everything has to be done in the way that the department wants you to do it. So, for example, you might register for one exam online in one department and then do it in paper, in person in another one. There's a lot of disjointed elements about studying abroad in Germany, but aside from that, it is fantastic. It's such a useful experience for me to be able to improve my German, using it on a daily basis in class as well as outside of class. Engaging with really complex vocab, so things like secondary reading, secondary literature for studying drama is something I would not have read probably at home. So being sort of forced to read things that are a bit outside of my sort of normal study area it's just really good for the development of my language and also me academically. So I've had to do essays in German so far, and seeing different perspectives on that, so what gets corrected, how they correct things, how they want you to structure things. It allows you to broaden your ways of thinking and develop new ways of tackling things for when you go back home for final year. It is also just really flexible, so many of you, when you go abroad, you'll be able to take modules from outside of your main subject. So for me, being able to do things like philosophy or classics or linguistics, things that I wouldn't get to do at home, have allowed me to develop new skills that I wouldn't have got as part of my degree otherwise. They've allowed me to follow my own interests and really make this about what I want to learn. So it's a very, very personalised part of the degree, which is a fantastic benefit. So if you're looking for things next year to study, try something new, try something you haven't done before, but something that speaks to you, something that you think would be really interesting, because it will probably be able to be of use to you when you go back to Birmingham. You'll find a way to work the skills into your degree. For example, I think I've found the topic that I want to write my dissertation on next year through one of the lectures that I've done. So all of the things that you do, they may not be in your subject, but they will always be relevant. And at the end of the day, it's just interesting. And if it's what you want to do, absolutely go for it. Studying, the studying part of study abroad is really good. It's so personalised and so up to you and so much about your interests. It's really, really fantastic. I have loved it. So personal development is the last thing that I'm going to talk about today, because I think that studying abroad helps you come along so much as a person. You're thrown into this new culture where lots of things are different. A new university system, new housing, new town, new buses, new shops. Particularly if you're studying in a country where English isn't necessarily widely spoken, you have to navigate things like supermarkets in other languages for the first time and make sure you know what you're looking for and avoiding certain things. So the experience of being on your own most times abroad and being able to trust your instincts and become more confident in yourself and become more outgoing and be willing to try new things, I think that comes naturally with the study abroad process, because you are in a situation that you've not been in before. Many of you will be studying abroad without people from home, so you will have to sort of find other ways to sort of work around problems, find new people to help you, and then you'll all be in the same boat, so you'll all become more resilient together. I do feel like I have personally become more confident in talking, more confident in putting myself out there. I was quite outgoing anyway, but this sort of just helps you get over the last sort of few hurdles. And it's such an interesting challenge, and you do see how quickly and how willing you are, without necessarily thinking sometimes, to change certain things to make your life easier. So if you don't have people that you rely on at home, you are quickly, I think, forced to sort of think, how can I do this myself, or how can I find other ways of doing it? And that's a good thing. These skills that you build are really, really useful in making yourself a stronger person, a more resilient person. And that is one of the things that you don't necessarily see when you study abroad. It's the thing that only you can know and you can feel. So that is, I think, one of the biggest parts of studying abroad, is how you grow as a person, how you change as a person, and most of the time, in fact all the time, for the better. So those are 5 things that I've really enjoyed about the year abroad so far, 5 of the biggest benefits that I've found about the experience. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you're studying abroad next year and you'd like some tips or advice, then feel free to get in touch with me via Instagram at Harvey_UOB, where you'll also find all of my pictures and stories from the year abroad so far, as well as a link to my blog posts where I talk about university and student life in general, not just studying abroad. Coming soon, I have things like offer holder visit days, so what you can do to make the most of your next visit to a university after you've had an offer, but also things like my classes on the year abroad, and lots more exciting things as we go into the rest of the spring term. So thank you once again, have a fantastic term, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.